I'm Val Joe, and I'm wondering how the treaty will help my family and my community.
Well, Val's asked an important question from the perspective of its members. How will we and its membership of the various First Nations benefit from the treaty? I know an awful lot of this looks like simply negotiating between leaderships, and that perhaps the individual community members won't see any benefit from the treaty. But that is not correct. How do we benefit? We will finally get the land that we should have gotten under a treaty. They were giving in Alberta, for example, 160 acres per family of 5. British Columbia, when the reserves were established, many of us got 5 acres per family of 5, sometimes 10 acres per family of 5. The treaty gives us more land. We're going to be able to build homes. We're going to be able to start businesses. We're going to be able to prosper more than we've ever been in the past. Individual members will also benefit through the creation of employment opportunities, for better and more funding for education. Just under the issue of education, our children currently are going to public schools. Many of them do not do well in that system. Would it be better to create our own system, or perhaps improve the existing system through cultural sensitive programs? These are the questions at the community level that we need to embark upon and find answers. My own wish is that our members get a good education, whether they go to university, whether they take up a trade. We need resources, we need funding, we need institutions to support that. Half of our population is under 25. The treaty is going to put us in a position where we can do that, where we can create opportunities in times and in places that we wouldn't have been able to do under the Indian Act. I've been advocating that out of the 150 million, that some distribution happens. We've been waiting for this treaty for a long time. Those members in Alberta and Saskatchewan every year get $5 per person. They've been receiving that as compensation. $5 might not seem like an awful lot, but it recognizes that Indigenous people had this right, that they lost some land, that they need to be compensated for that. Outside of the 14 treaties that were signed on Vancouver Island, the rest of British Columbia was not purchased from the Indians. Settlers just came in and began setting up their farms and setting up their businesses and their municipalities. Indigenous people in British Columbia have never been compensated for the lands taken from them unlawfully. In the Stala Nation, we have thousands of non-Native people living here now. We've never agreed that they should be here, but they are, and they're not going anywhere. This treaty will correct that historic error. But some compensation, in my view, ought to go to the individual members in lieu of the fact that we've been pushed on to smaller reserves, that we've been marginalized to the edge of society, that many of us have faced racism and unfair treatment. Compensation for that could never really be paid. There's not enough money to compensate Indigenous people for what they've gone through in terms of residential schools, in terms of the 60 scoop. But I'm advocating that each individual gets something. The treaty is also going to benefit us because over the last 140 or so years, we've been under the direction of the federal government. Right from birth until death, our whole life had been determined by the Minister of Indian Affairs. After the treaty, we stand up as a nation. We're going to be able to direct ourselves. We're going to be able to chart our own direction and create a prosperous future for our children. Self-government is going to give us our dignity back. We'll find a place in this country called Canada, which our ancestors fought for. We're going to benefit from this treaty in many, many ways, but the most important one is that we'll be finally recognized as the original people, and we'll take our place in what is now called Canada. And I hope that our children will never have to go through what many of us went through on our reserves: the poverty, the racism. The change that I foresee in the future for our next generations is amazing. This treaty is about you. It's about the individuals. It's about our youth. It's not just about the nation and jurisdiction. Individuals will benefit from a more prosperous nation.